In the beginning there was silence. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of secrets too profound to be spoken aloud. Long before empires rose and fell, before the great floods carved new continents from the bones of the old world, there existed knowledge that was never meant for mortal eyes. This knowledge was not written in the language of kings or prophets, but in the whispers of angels who descended from realms beyond the veil of human understanding. Among these ancient testimonies, buried beneath layers of sand and time, lies a manuscript so controversial, so earth-shattering in its revelations, that religious authorities across centuries have sought to erase it from existence. This is not a tale of mere historical curiosity. This is the story of the Book of Enoch, a text that speaks directly to your future, to the destiny of humanity, and to the cosmic battle that rages in dimensions unseen. The year is 300 before the Common Era. In the caves of Qumran, near the shores of the Dead Sea, scribes with trembling hands copy words that burn with forbidden fire. They know what they preserve could cost them everything. These are not ordinary scriptures. These are the visions of Enoch, the seventh from Adam, the man who walked with God and was taken up into heaven without tasting death. His testimony speaks of things that make the ground shake and the stars tremble. He saw the machinery of creation itself, the hidden gears that turn the wheels of fate. He stood before the throne of the Ancient of Days and witnessed judgments yet to come. But more than this, Enoch was shown something that authorities of every age have feared: the truth about the Watchers, the fallen ones, the angels who descended to earth and forever altered the course of human destiny. You must understand something fundamental before we venture deeper into this revelation. The Book of Enoch was once considered scripture by the earliest followers of the faith. It was quoted by the apostles themselves, referenced in the canonical texts you know today. Yet somewhere in the centuries that followed, it was deliberately removed, stripped from the official canon, deemed too dangerous, too revealing, too specific in its prophecies. When you remove a book from sacred canon, you do not simply erase text from parchment. You erase entire dimensions of understanding. You close doors that were meant to remain open. You silence voices that were meant to echo through eternity. The question we must ask is not why was the Book of Enoch written, but why was it hidden? What truths within its pages threatened the structures of power so profoundly that they required its burial? The manuscript begins not with gentle parables, but with cosmic rebellion. Enoch describes 200 angels, the Watchers, who looked upon the daughters of men and found them beautiful. These were not minor spirits, but powerful beings assigned to observe humanity, never to interfere. Yet they broke the fundamental law of separation between divine and mortal realms. They descended to Mount Hermon, making a pact bound by mutual curses, knowing full well the consequences of their transgression. What they taught humanity was not mere knowledge, but dangerous wisdom, the arts of weaponry and warfare, the secrets of cosmetics and vanity, the cutting of roots and the mixing of potions, astrology and the reading of celestial signs, enchantments that could bend reality itself. This was not education, but contamination. The angels did not elevate humanity, but infected it with knowledge that we were not spiritually mature enough to handle. From the union of these fallen angels and human women came the Nephilim, beings of terrifying power and insatiable appetite, giants who walked the earth and consumed everything in their path. These were not mythological creatures relegated to children's stories, but hybrid entities that represented a fundamental corruption of the natural order. The Book of Enoch describes them as beings whose spirits, upon their physical death, would not ascend or descend but would remain trapped on earth, becoming what we now call demons. This is not metaphor. This is cosmology. The text explains that the violence, the spiritual warfare, the invisible torment that plagues humanity originates from these disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, forever seeking bodies to inhabit, forever hungry for the physical existence they lost. When you read the ancient accounts of possession, of spiritual oppression, of the invisible forces that seem to drive humanity toward self-destruction, You are reading about the legacy of the Watchers. Now we arrive at the central warning, the prophecy that speaks directly across millennia, to this very moment you are living in. Enoch was taken on a journey through 7 heavens, shown the mechanisms of judgment, the books where every deed is recorded, the places prepared for the righteous and the wicked. He saw angels of punishment and angels of mercy. He witnessed the chambers where natural phenomena originate, where snow and hail are stored, where lightning is kept until its appointed time. But among all these visions, one stands out with particular relevance to our age. Enoch was shown a future time when humanity would possess knowledge far beyond what the Watchers originally gave, a time when mankind would unlock the very building blocks of creation itself. He saw an era when the boundaries between life and death would blur, when humans would attempt to create life in their own image, when the genetic code given by the Creator would be tampered with, altered, merged with artificial intelligence and technologies that mock the divine blueprint. Does this sound familiar? Are we not living in precisely such an age? When scientists speak casually of editing human DNA, of creating designer children, of merging human consciousness with machines, of achieving immortality through technology, are they not walking the same path as the Watchers? The Book of Enoch warns that when humanity begins to play God, when the natural boundaries established at creation are systematically violated, judgment becomes inevitable, not as punishment from an angry deity, but as a natural consequence of cosmic law. When you introduce chaos into order, when you corrupt the fundamental code of existence, the system must reset. The great flood in Enoch's account was not divine cruelty, but cosmic necessity. A cleansing required because creation itself had become so corrupted that it could no longer sustain life as intended. But here is where the revelation deepens into layers that most never perceive. The Book of Enoch contains another dimension of prophecy, one written in the language of celestial bodies and cosmic cycles. Enoch describes in minute detail the movements of sun and moon, the pathways of stars, the gates through which celestial lights pass at appointed times. This is not primitive astronomy, but advanced cosmology encoded in spiritual symbolism. The text speaks of weeks within weeks, 70 generations, cycles upon cycles that govern not just planetary motion, but the rise and fall of civilizations, the ebb and flow of spiritual darkness, and light upon the earth. According to Enoch's chronology, we are living at the end of a great cosmic week, approaching a transition point that occurs only once in thousands of years. The 10th week, as Enoch describes it, will be the time of judgment, when the old heavens and earth pass away and new ones emerge. The righteous will receive gifts of sevenfold wisdom and will shine like stars. The wicked will be bound for eternal destruction. But between the 9th and 10th weeks lies a time of great deception, when truth will be called lie, and lie will be called truth, when knowledge will increase, but wisdom will decrease, when communication will be instant but understanding will vanish. Tell me, does this not precisely describe the age of information where we drown in data yet starve for meaning? Where we can speak to anyone anywhere yet feel profoundly alone? Where we have access to all human knowledge yet seem increasingly unable to distinguish fact from fiction? Enoch warns of a time when wickedness will be normalized, when violence will be entertainment, when the sacred will be mocked as primitive and the profane will be celebrated as progressive. He describes an era when people will call good evil and evil good, when darkness will be preferred to light because their deeds are dark. The prophet speaks of a generation that has eyes but cannot see, ears but cannot hear, hearts hardened not by lack of information, but by excess of distraction. In the scrolls of Enoch, we find descriptions of a future humanity that worships creation rather than creator, that bows before technology and pleasure, that makes gods of comfort and convenience. This is not ancient poetry. This is diagnosis of the present moment. Yet within this sobering warning lies an encrypted message of hope, a secret path available only to those who have eyes to see beyond the surface narrative. Enoch himself represents this path. He was a man who walked with God in the midst of corruption, who maintained spiritual clarity while surrounded by moral darkness, who was translated into higher realms without experiencing death. This is not just historical account, but symbolic instruction. The text is telling you that even in the age of greatest deception, the path of transcendence remains open. Even when the Watchers have taught humanity every form of corruption, even when the Nephilim spirits rage through the collective unconsciousness, even when the cosmic clock approaches midnight, individual ascension remains possible. The Book of Enoch describes specific practices that Enoch himself employed to maintain his connection to the divine amid the chaos. He speaks of righteousness not as rule-following, but as alignment with cosmic order. He describes prayer not as petition, but as tuning one's frequency to higher dimensions. He teaches about fasting not as religious obligation, but as a technology for expanding consciousness beyond the limitations of dense physical form. Most significantly, he emphasizes the power of walking, of continuous movement in spiritual practice, of refusing to become stagnant or rooted in the corrupted soil of the fallen world. To walk with God means to remain in constant motion toward higher truth, to never settle in the camps of the comfortable, to keep ascending even when the path grows steep and narrow. The manuscript contains detailed descriptions of the heavenly realms, each level representing not just a location, but a state of consciousness, a frequency of being. In the first heaven, Enoch sees the rulers of stars and the treasuries of snow and ice. In the second heaven, he encounters fallen angels awaiting judgment, suspended between worlds. The third heaven contains both paradise and the pit, showing that blessing and curse exist in close proximity, separated only by choices made in the realm of free will. By the seventh heaven, Enoch stands before the throne itself, the origin point from which all creation emanates. This is cartography of consciousness, a map showing that heaven is not a distant location you reach after death, but a frequency you can access now through elevation of your inner being. Think deeply about what this means for your life in this present moment. If the Book of Enoch is correct, if we are indeed living in the time it prophesied, then every choice you make carries exponential weight. The text warns that there will come a point of no return, a moment when the door closes and what is written is sealed. This is not arbitrary divine decree, but the natural consequence of momentum. A stone rolling down a mountain reaches a velocity where it cannot be stopped. A seed growing in darkness eventually breaks through soil into light or dies trying. You are either moving toward illumination or descending into density. There is no spiritual neutrality, no cosmic Switzerland where you can remain uninvolved in the great choosing. The fallen angels described in Enoch did not become fallen through dramatic acts of violence, but through subtle compromise, through the gradual choice to prioritize desire over duty, lust over love, personal pleasure over cosmic purpose. Their descent began with a glance, a thought, a small justification. By the time they took physical form and contaminated the human race, they had already fallen in consciousness long before. This is the pattern. Corruption always begins in the invisible realm of thought and intention before manifesting in visible action. If you harbor darkness in your heart, if you entertain thoughts of hatred, greed, lust, and pride, you are already participating in the fall, already aligning with the frequency of the Watchers rather than the harmony of heaven. But the text also reveals something that authorities throughout history have suppressed with particular vigor. Enoch learns that even among the fallen there exists a hierarchy, a structure, names and ranks, and specific domains of influence. Azazel taught men the making of weapons and women the art of deception through cosmetics. Semyaza led the initial rebellion and taught enchantments. Gadriel showed humans how to create instruments of death. Each fallen Watcher specializes in a particular form of corruption, a specific avenue through which they continue to influence human consciousness. When you understand this, you begin to recognize their fingerprints in every era. The obsession with appearance and vanity, the work of those who taught cosmetic manipulation, the endless wars and development of ever more efficient killing technologies, the legacy of those who revealed the secrets of weaponry, the occult practices that promise power through violation of natural law, the continuation of forbidden enchantments taught in the days before the flood. What makes the Book of Enoch so dangerous to established power structures is its specificity. It names names, describes mechanisms, removes the vagueness that allows corruption to hide in plain sight. When evil is unnamed, it is difficult to identify and resist. When the patterns are revealed, when the ancient tactics are exposed, when you understand that the same spiritual warfare that raged before the flood continues in new forms today, you gain the ability to choose consciously rather than being swept along by invisible currents. This is why the text was removed from canon. Not because it was false, but because it was too true. Not because it contradicted Scripture, but because it illuminated Scripture with uncomfortable clarity. Consider the Apostle Jude, who quotes directly from the Book of Enoch in the canonical text, referring to Enoch's prophecy about the Lord coming with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment. If Enoch was good enough for the apostles, if his prophecy was considered authoritative enough to be quoted in the inspired text, why was his book later removed? The answer reveals a truth about institutional religion that many find difficult to accept. Over centuries, religious structures become as interested in maintaining their authority as in preserving truth. When a text empowers individuals to access divine wisdom directly, when it removes the need for intermediary interpretation, when it places cosmic knowledge in the hands of common people, it threatens the entire hierarchy of religious power. The Book of Enoch teaches that you do not need an institution to access the divine. Enoch himself was not a priest in any formal system. He was a man who chose to walk with God, who pursued righteousness in the midst of wickedness, who maintained his connection to higher realms through personal discipline and spiritual practice. His translation into heaven without death represents the ultimate bypass of every earthly authority. He did not need permission from religious leaders to ascend. He did not require ritual performed by priests to be taken up. His elevation was the natural result of his frequency, his consciousness, his alignment with cosmic law. This is the message that threatens every system built on the premise that you need them to reach God. As we venture deeper into the prophetic layers of this ancient text, we encounter passages that describe the final judgment with cinematic detail. Enoch sees the earth splitting open, revealing the places prepared for those who rejected the way of righteousness. He describes fire that does not consume but torments, darkness that is somehow visible, isolation that is crowded with the presence of other lost souls. These are not physical locations but states of consciousness, frequencies of existence where beings who chose separation from the divine source experience the natural consequences of that separation. Heaven and hell are not rewards and punishments handed out by an external judge, but the inevitable destinations of the frequencies we choose to embody. Like attracts like. Light gathers to light. Darkness falls into darkness. The judgment is simply the revealing of what always was, the removing of the veil that temporarily allowed opposites to coexist. The text describes a moment when books will be opened, when every secret thing will be revealed, when nothing hidden will remain concealed. In an age of digital surveillance, of cameras on every corner, of permanent records of every keystroke and click, we are experiencing a physical manifestation of a spiritual principle. Everything is being recorded, not by some external deity with a clipboard, but by the fabric of reality itself. Consciousness is holographic. Every thought, every intention, every action creates ripples that are permanently encoded in the field. The judgment Enoch describes is simply the moment when these hidden records become visible, when the truth of what we really are, beneath all our masks and pretenses, stands fully exposed in the light. But listen carefully to this crucial distinction that most miss. The prophecy is not designed to create fear, but to inspire transformation. When Enoch describes the fate of the wicked, he does so not with glee but with sadness, with the heavy heart of one who knows that every soul lost to darkness represents a note missing from the cosmic symphony. The purpose of the warning is not to threaten, but to illuminate the stakes, to make clear that choices matter, that we are not cosmic accidents floating in meaningless space, but eternal beings making decisions that echo through dimensions we cannot see. You are being given the chance to choose consciously, to align intentionally, to walk the path that leads upward rather than drift on the current that flows down. Throughout the Book of Enoch, light and darkness are not presented as equal opposite forces but as presence and absence. Darkness is not a power unto itself, but the absence of light. Evil is not an alternative good, but the corruption of good. The Watchers did not create anything new when they fell. They only twisted and perverted what was already created. This is crucial to understand because it means that darkness has no creative power. It can only corrupt, distort, imitate, and destroy. Light, however, is generative, creative, life-giving, expanding. When you align with light, you align with the fundamental generative force of existence itself. When you choose darkness, you choose diminishment, contraction, eventual dissolution. The manuscript contains a fascinating section where Enoch observes the movements of celestial bodies and notes that they never deviate from their appointed courses. The sun rises at its time. The moon follows its phases without fail. The stars maintain their positions in perfect order. Only humanity, of all creation, rebels against its intended function. Only humans look at the order of the cosmos and choose chaos. Only we receive instruction in righteousness and choose wickedness. The heavens declare the glory of God through their obedience. The earth proclaims divine wisdom through its cycles. But humanity, endowed with the precious and dangerous gift of free will, uses that gift to create disharmony, to introduce discord into the symphony. Yet this same free will that allows us to fall also provides the mechanism for our ascension. We are not victims of cosmic determinism, not passengers on a train with only one destination. At every moment, with every breath, with every thought, you are choosing. You are either amplifying light or darkness, expanding consciousness, or contracting it, moving toward integration or disintegration. The Book of Enoch makes clear that this choice is not a single dramatic decision made once in a lifetime, but a continuous orientation, a direction of travel that accumulates momentum over time. Enoch walked with God for 300 years before his translation. This was not 300 years of perfection, but 300 years of consistent choice, of daily decision to turn toward light even when darkness seemed easier, more comfortable, more popular. In the latter sections of the text, Enoch describes a coming age when the righteous will shine with a brightness that surpasses the stars, when they will be given authority over angels, when they will understand mysteries that were sealed since the foundation of the world. This is not metaphorical poetry, but description of an evolutionary threshold. Humanity is not meant to remain at its current level of consciousness. We are larvae destined for metamorphosis, seeds meant to become trees, sparks designed to become flames. The question is not whether evolution of consciousness is possible, but whether enough individuals will choose it to tip the collective balance. There is a critical mass, a tipping point, a number of awakened souls required to anchor higher frequencies on Earth. The text suggests that this number is surprisingly small, that a remnant of the righteous can transform the whole. Think about what this means in practical terms for your life today. You are not responsible for awakening the entire world. You are responsible for your own consciousness, your own frequency, your own alignment with truth. But when you do this work authentically, when you genuinely elevate your being, you automatically become a light in the darkness, a beacon for others who are searching, a proof that transformation is possible. The Book of Enoch emphasizes that the righteous will be recognized not by their words, but by their radiance, not by their claims, but by their presence. You cannot fake spiritual evolution. It shows in your eyes, your energy, the peace you carry, the love you emanate. This is why external religious performance without inner transformation is worthless. You can memorize every scripture, follow every ritual, and still remain in darkness if your heart is not aligned with the frequency of light. As we approach the conclusion of this revelation, we must address the most controversial claim in the entire text. Enoch states explicitly that he was shown your generation, this specific moment in human history, and that what he saw caused him to weep. Not because of divine judgment, but because of human choice. He saw a generation with access to more knowledge than any before it, yet more confused than any in history. He saw people able to communicate instantly across vast distances, yet profoundly unable to communicate with their own souls. He saw technology that could have elevated humanity being used instead to enslave it. He saw abundance creating emptiness, connection creating isolation, information creating ignorance. What broke his heart was not that this future was inevitable, but that it was chosen, step by step, decision by decision, compromise by compromise. But in the same vision, Enoch also saw those who would choose differently. He saw a remnant who would recognize the deception, who would choose wisdom over knowledge, who would value consciousness over comfort. He saw ordinary people making extraordinary choices, refusing to bow to the pressures of their age, maintaining their connection to the divine source, even when everyone around them called them foolish, extreme, outdated. He saw these individuals shine like stars in the darkness, and he saw that their light was enough to guide others, enough to maintain the frequency, enough to ensure that the thread of truth would not be completely severed from the earth. You are living in the time Enoch saw. You are the generation he wept for and hoped in. Everything the ancient prophet described is manifesting around you in real time. The question that determines your future, both in this life and beyond, is simple but profound. Will you be part of the remnant or part of the multitude? Will you choose the narrow path of conscious evolution or the wide road of unconscious decline? Will you align with the frequency of the watchers or the frequency of those who walk with God? The Book of Enoch makes clear that this choice cannot be delayed indefinitely. There are windows in cosmic time, moments when transformation is possible that will not remain open forever. We are living in such a window now. The veil between dimensions is thin. The opportunity for rapid evolution of consciousness is available to those who reach for it. But the same cosmic forces that make ascension possible also make descent more rapid. The intensity of this age means that you cannot remain neutral. You will either rise or fall, but you will not stand still. If you have watched this far, if these words have resonated in a place deeper than your conscious mind, if you feel a stirring of recognition, as though you are remembering something you always knew but had forgotten, then you are being called. The ancient wisdom encoded in the Book of Enoch is not information to be passively consumed, but activation codes designed to awaken dormant capacities within your consciousness. The reason this text was preserved through millennia of attempted destruction is because it contains keys that souls in this exact moment would need. You are not watching this by accident. There are no accidents in a universe of intelligent design. Before we close, I want to speak directly to you. Not as content creator to viewer, but as one soul to another, in the cosmic drama we are all participating in. Everything I have shared with you today is verifiable. The Book of Enoch exists. You can read it yourself. The prophecies it contains are specific and checkable against observable reality. The spiritual principles it teaches are testable in the laboratory of your own consciousness. This is not asking you to believe blindly, but to investigate courageously. Read the text. Compare it to other ancient wisdom traditions. Most importantly, apply its teachings and observe what happens in your life when you do. The path of Enoch, the way of walking with God in the midst of a corrupted world, is not reserved for special people with supernatural gifts. It is available to anyone who makes the choice and maintains the discipline. Start with simple steps. Turn your attention inward before you turn it outward. Guard your consciousness as though it were the most valuable treasure in existence, because it is. Question everything, including what I have told you here. Truth does not fear investigation. Only lies require that you stop asking questions. Choose righteousness not because you fear punishment, but because you recognize it as alignment with the fundamental harmony of existence. Love not as emotional indulgence, but as the generative force that created and sustains all things. The warning of the Book of Enoch about your future is not fatalism, but fierce compassion. It is the ancient prophet reaching across centuries to grab you by the shoulders and shake you awake, to tell you that time is short, that the choices you make now will echo through eternity, that you have within you the capacity for transformation beyond anything you have imagined. But you must choose it. You must reach for it. You must walk toward it with the same dedication that Enoch walked with God for 3 centuries. If this message has stirred something within you, if you feel the call to dive deeper into the ancient wisdom that has been hidden but is now being revealed, then do not let this moment pass without action. Subscribe to this channel, not to serve an algorithm, but to stay connected to a community of seekers who are choosing consciousness over comfort. Hit the like button as a signal to the universe that you are ready for more truth, more depth, more activation. Share this with someone you know who is ready to wake up, who has been searching without knowing what they are searching for. We are building a network of light bearers, a digital tribe of the remnant that Enoch saw shining in the darkness of the last days. The Book of Enoch ends not with despair, but with triumph. The final vision shows a new heaven and a new earth where righteousness dwells, where the knowledge of God covers the earth as the waters cover the sea, where those who chose light in the age of darkness reign with wisdom and authority. This is not fantasy. This is destiny for those who align with its frequency. The judgment is not the end, but the beginning, the necessary burning away of what is false so that what is true can emerge in fullness. You are not here to survive the coming transformation. You are here to embody it, to become it, to be the change that tips the cosmic balance from darkness back toward light. Walk with God in the midst of chaos. Shine in the darkness. Choose consciousness in an age of distraction. Remember what the ancient ones knew, that you are not merely human, but human becoming divine, not merely mortal, but mortality clothing immortality. Not merely conscious, but consciousness itself waking up to its own true nature. This is the warning and the promise of the Book of Enoch. This is the secret that was hidden so that it could be revealed at precisely this moment. This is the truth that will set you free if you have the courage to embrace it fully. The choice, as it always has been, is yours. Choose wisely. Choose consciously. Choose now. Because the clock that Enoch saw ticking toward midnight is louder than it has ever been, and what you decide in this window of time will determine not just your future, but the future of consciousness itself on this planet. The ancient prophet is calling across the ages. Can you hear him? Will you answer? The Book of Enoch warns about your future, but it also empowers you to change it. The question is whether you will.